All right, well, fingers crossed that this video does not get marked with copyright. Now, I did a recent post on my community tab on YouTube, letting everybody know that, hey, I'm going through a somewhat lengthy copyright battle, with OWN in regards to my Greenleaf videos I've done. If you are new to the channel or if you haven't heard of situations like this before, basically I'm a YouTuber, meaning that this is my full-time job. YouTube is how I make my income and pay my bills and whatnot. So if you get 3 copyright strikes on your channel, then your channel is temporarily shut down, possibly permanently shut down if it's not resolved. And once again, I have no copyright strikes as of yet. Well, technically I have one, but I have multiple Greenleaf videos. Basically, for example, if one have and have not video gets marked for copyright, then that possibly runs the risk of others getting marked as well if the content that's marked for copyright is used in those videos. So once again, 3 strikes, you're out. I can't afford that. So that's why I haven't been doing any Greenleaf videos, despite the fact the last few episodes have been amazing. So with the finale coming up next Wednesday, I am praying that this copyright stuff is straightened out before then. That way I can do a slew of Greenleaf videos before the haves and have-nots comes back in January. So that's why I haven't been doing Greenleaf. This video, hopefully it will pass the guidelines, since I won't be using any clips. I'll probably just be using one photo, which is the haves and the have-nots and the Greenleaf logos or titles meshed into one picture. So sorry for the lengthy intro, but I had to break it down as to why people have been demanding Greenleaf videos, but I haven't been doing any. That's why. Now let's just get to this video. This video is just an open discussion kind of format. I'm just going to be talking about loose thoughts about both shows and which show I think is better and so on and so forth. And I even made posts on all my social media about it: Twitter, Facebook group, and Instagram. And if you haven't followed me on all those platforms, there are links in the description below. Literally go do it, because sometimes I do giveaways on those formats that I don't announce on YouTube, so you're missing out. But basically, I feel like comparing these two shows, and this might sound blasphemous, is kind of like comparing Michael Jackson and Prince. Both are great in their own way, but they aren't quite the same though. I mean, there are elements of one that the other doesn't have, and vice versa. There are things about, both shows that I like, things that I dislike, but can you really compare the two? I mean, most people who say that they don't watch Greenleaf, honestly, it's like half and half. One side is like, Greenleaf is nothing but the basic Baptist or black mega church, or even, just the county church in your area. Like, to be honest, I'm from a small town where we go to the church that's like not even 10 minutes from our house, but the Grove Baptist Church. I come from a church with like a couple hundred members, if not even less than 100. I'm talking like the only time you have a couple hundred people is either during a funeral, during a wedding, during homecoming, or like a big holiday event. But year round, you're lucky if you get 70 plus people in the service. I come from one of those churches, but at the same time, you knew the pastor, the deacons, every choir member, usher, you knew everybody in the church. I come from a church where like almost everybody's related. That's the kind of format it was. So coming to like Liberty University in Lynchburg, going to like mega churches like Thomas Road, while I do enjoy going, from time to time, it was definitely one of those churches where I've never had a negative experience, but the only interactions I really had were, the greeters and, like the ushers that would come by during the offering / tithing, or, anybody I was sitting near when they have those moments while, hey, go, hug or shake hands with like 5 people, those kind of moments. But other than that, it's kind of like, you're there, you get the word, and then you leave. That's the kind of format. But that's not to say those kind of churches don't have, what do they call them? Like, prayer groups or social groups and whatnot, where, you can break off and meet new people and stuff like that. But yeah, those churches have problems too. So even small churches can have the problems mega churches do in terms of family drama, money issues, and things like that. So I will say this much: in terms of relatability, I got to give the point to Greenleaf, because the stuff they argue about, it seems like the kind of shit that people go on about during family reunions and whatnot. So what really drew me to Greenleaf was the religious aspect of it. You know, once again, growing up in a Black Baptist church, getting multiple graduate degrees in theology and whatnot, I really related to Greenleaf on a personal level. So I feel like that show definitely gets a point for that. But let me just put it this way. I think that the haves and the have-nots, I want to try to sound unbiased with this, but I can't help it. I've been on the show since episode 1. That's why I didn't jump on board Empire when that first came out. That's why I didn't jump on If Loving You Is Wrong when that first came out. That's why I didn't jump on Greenleaf when that first came out, because my time, energy, and devotion was the haves and the have-nots. I was blogging, tweeting, just like that consumed any extra time I had outside of work and school at the time. And that was it. Like, I was doing those theories, and really it was my attitude towards the haves and the have-nots was kind of like my attitude towards like anime and whatnot as a kid. You know, the big three in terms of anime was Pokemon, Digimon, and Dragon Ball Z. And everybody was like, yo, man, I know you grew up watching anime and whatnot, so did you ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? And I don't know if Avatar can be considered an anime. I know somebody in the comments will just let me know if it's a cartoon or anime, so thank you for that. But like, did you watch Yu Yu Hakusho, Yu-Gi-Oh, Avatar, and whatnot? I'm like, no. See, the reason I limited myself was because, one, I was at that stage, you know, in like teenage years where it's like, okay, I can only do but so much because homework is getting harder. I'm in like these college level high school classes, so I can't afford to watch TV all day like I used to. Not to mention my mom was really the one that supported my endeavors like that. Really, as long as my grades didn't drop, then I can pretty much get trading cards and video games and whatnot. And my attitude was like, I know she can't afford to give me like everything from every series, so I would have rather just limited myself to like 2 or 3 instead of adding more to it. That's how I feel about the haves and the have-nots. Like, my time and whatnot was focused on that show, and luckily I feel like I made the right decision, because obviously that's the show I'm reviewing on my channel, and that's how I'm making a living now. Arguably, if I would have transferred over to like Empire, I would possibly have more subscribers and whatnot. But the biggest argument for that is, if I would have started doing my YouTube channel instead of blogging when I first started out, my channel would probably be way bigger than it is now. But at the same time, I know that everything happens when it's supposed to happen, and I'm here now. So when it comes down to it, I think that the haves and the have-nots, I have a greater appreciation for it because I've been watching it religiously since episode 1. While Greenleaf, you know, if you haven't seen, when did I say it? Like a couple months ago, that I actually did watch all of Greenleaf on Netflix and other online sources for the recent season. So I have caught up. I guess you could say this much. I did enjoy the series because I wouldn't have kept watching past season 1 if I didn't like it. I'm still bad with the character names despite watching every episode. So that's why I'm really patient, or at least hoping for patience in my videos, because some of my character names might be off the mark. And most people will say, like, on the haves and the have-nots, you can recite episode titles and whatnot like scripture, but on the show about the Lord, you can't even recite 2 characters' names correctly. I know, I'm bad. So I feel like when it comes down to the haves and the have-nots, that will always have a special place in my heart, because when you have a channel and then a blog and then multiple social media outlets focused on one thing, it's hard to kind of convert over, which is ironic because we're talking about a show about religion in the form of Greenleaf. So I feel like in terms of story, Greenleaf is kind of iffy. Like, sometimes I'm invested, other times I'm like, this story doesn't make sense. But I feel like when it comes down to it, Greenleaf has that If Loving You Is Wrong syndrome, where the season is kind of meh, but then those last few episodes like kick your teeth out because they are so damn good that you didn't see it coming. Like, you know, Chris Tucker being kicked in Rush Hour. Like, which one of y'all kicked me? He didn't see it coming. I feel like Greenleaf has made way more noise in recent episodes than the past maybe 10 episodes of the haves and the have-nots. Like, literally, I could not go online without people talking about Lady May and LaToya Luckett's character, and it's like her and the bishop, who is so and so really, were they born a man? Who's the baby daddy? All that stuff. I think that this season is going to go out with a bang. So I feel like in terms of quality, Greenleaf has been better than the haves and the have-nots, at least in the recent episodes. So I will say that Greenleaf definitely has a lot of untapped potential. And if I'm not mistaken, Greenleaf is about to wrap up season 3, while the haves and the have-nots is just wrapped up season 5 on OWN. So for a show like Greenleaf to make that much noise in only the first couple seasons is definitely showing that it's a heavy hitter. So even when Tyler Perry leaves for Viacom, OWN should be okay in terms of having at least 1 or 2 heavy hitting series in its own right. No pun intended. But I do feel like a big debate that's been going on recently is the fact that the haves and the have-nots, just the dragged on storylines and the fact that you can miss several episodes and really not miss much of anything. I feel like that's the worst part about it, and that's why people have been shifting over to Greenleaf. Like literally, even looking at Instagram, I made a post, and there are a huge amount of comments where a majority do say that Greenleaf is the better show, but I feel like that's a bit much of a overstatement, because when you think about it, when you say Greenleaf is better than the haves and the have-nots, are you making that judgment based off of maybe the last season or 2 of the haves and have-nots, or the series as a whole? But then you run into the argument, well, Jeremy, how can you really say that it's a fair assessment to say that the haves and the have-nots is greater than Greenleaf when the haves and the have-nots has had 5 seasons while Greenleaf has only had 3? I completely understand that. But if I were to compare at least the first 2 seasons, I would say the haves and the have-nots hands down, because I've said it time and time again. I personally feel the first couple seasons were the best. Season 3 was good too. But if you look closely, season 3 was when things started to get dragged out. And you can tell that was really Tyler Perry, because he was working on so many projects, movies, If Loving You Is Wrong, Love Thy Neighbor, and who knows what other projects he worked years in advance while working on the haves and the have-nots and the quality shows. I feel like really you can't compare the 2 shows because they both represent different things. True, they're mostly drama series, mainly with a African-American main cast, but at the same time, they're both under different umbrellas, where Greenleaf is definitely like an Oprah production, while the haves and the have-nots is, well, a Tyler Perry thing. And it is interesting how Oprah has actually been in Greenleaf while Tyler Perry has yet to set foot or wig into the haves and the have-nots. So that's very interesting. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and maybe I'll do like a part 2 to this video. I didn't want to make it tremendously long, but I just wanted to give my rough draft thoughts as to why I love, one show over the other. Really, I can't say that I love one show over the other without sounding completely biased, because the haves and the have-nots will always win in my book. But Lady Mae she is like the Veronica of the series in a way, and you could say like LaToya Luckett's character. And look, I've had the biggest crush on LaToya ever since Destiny's Child, so it's hard for me to call her out of any other name. I think her name on the show is Rochelle. I could be wrong, but I just feel like, I can't call her anything else but LaToya. It just doesn't feel right. And let me just say, I might do a separate video on her as well. What I like about LaToya Luckett is the fact that this show has definitely been a blessing for her in my mind, because it's really upped her name in, pop culture recently. Because true, she was part of Destiny's Child, but after that, she kind of fell off the map, aside from her solo career with songs like Not Anymore and especially Torn. And then after that, she's kind of been, here and there in different movies and, new songs recently. I believe she got married recently and is pregnant with her first kid, if I'm not mistaken. But I feel like Greenleaf to LaToya Luckett is kind of like Mandy Moore with This Is Us. Like, Mandy Moore was a female pop singer in her day, but the problem was, and I'll never forget her song Candy. Man, that was a cool song. I'm Missing You Like Candy. That song, I mean, Mandy Moore was a talented singer in my opinion, but she came out at the wrong time, because she came out in the era of like Britney Spears. So obviously, while she had quality in her songs, she was heavily overshadowed by Britney Spears. I mean, most people, when you say Mandy Moore, when she was younger, she was known more for A Walk to Remember, as opposed to having a musical career. So now, as she's gotten older, still very fine. She's in a hit show, This Is Us, which eclipsed the success of her musical career. Same thing with LaToya Luckett. I mean, I feel like more people know her for Rochelle, or let me just say for Greenleaf, than her musical career, despite being part of Destiny's Child and whatnot. So that's just my opinion on that. So I feel like both shows have a way of giving notoriety to people who've been on the map in one way or another, like the haves and the have-nots. You know, you got John Snyder, Dukes of Hazzard, Peter Parros. He was on Knight Rider season 3, and what was it? As the World Turns, or General Hospital. Tinka Sumter. So many people who have been in various projects and whatnot that you probably know, but I feel like with a hit series, it just makes them even more relevant in today's culture of social media. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Which show do you feel is better and why? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And please, if you're a praying person that watches this video, pray that YouTube and OWN and whatnot lift the copyright thing so I can do Greenleaf videos, because I really want to do a finale video, because I feel like, number one, it'll get a lot of views, and secondly, I can finally let my hair down, that I don't have any hair, to talk about the show. But thanks so much for tuning in. Pray that this video doesn't get taken down, and yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.